Hello and welcome to Creating the Life You Love, How to Live a Spiritual Life in a 3D Reality. I am your host, Valeria Bruno, and this is the space where you will find tools for your personal and spiritual development, so you can live a fulfilled life in the magnificence of your being. And this is also a space where we can openly talk about science, spirituality, and even go beyond. And this is what we are going to do now with my first and welcome guest, Shamir Ladhani, who is going to open this virtual retreat. Hello, Shamir. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Hello, Valeria. It's a pleasure to be here with you and my Italian family and everybody that's listening to this. It's such a wonderful honor to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So before starting, I will introduce you to whoever doesn't know. I don't think, I think everyone knows you, but I will start reading your bio. Shamir Ladhani is an international speaker and a transformational coach, helping individuals to step out of their own way. Growing up experiencing low self-esteem and feeling unworthy, he achieved mediocrity in life, education, and relationship, but he eventually overcame these personal limitations and delivered a straight-A performance in a graduate level engineering program. He became vice president of a Fortune 500 company where he was masterful at inspiring others to strive for balance and excellence. He left this position to become a certified art math coach and trainer, and today he shows others how to overcome a self-limiting mindset that holds them back from achieving their highest potential. He has been invited to speak to audiences worldwide to show them how to step out of their own way and transform their lives from inside out. So, Shamir, welcome again. And I chose you as my opening interview, as I personally felt that without a strong and coherent heart-mind connection, we cannot really live a truly and fulfilled life in this 3D reality, of course. So I would like to ask first, how did you move from being an engineer to become, in my own personal words, what I consider you a 360-degree real life coach?
That's a very good question. It was very organic. It wasn't planned. But when I was in the corporate world, and as you mentioned in my biography, I was a vice president of a Fortune 500 company. I was making a lot of money, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't coherent. My heart and my mind were always debating each other. And I felt that I needed to do something different. And every human being, I know that when we're in survival mode, and survival mode means that I'm trying to get enough money to put food on the table to feed my family, and maybe have a little bit of vacation. But we're in survival mode, so we don't think about what is it that we want to do in our hearts. And what I teach people now is how to get out of the survival mode. Even if you think you don't have enough money to do things, or you think that you don't have any way out of where you are right now. Because when I'm looking at my role as a vice president there, I didn't think I had a way out until I found a way out. One day I just got the courage to say enough is enough, and I left, and I had nowhere else to go. I found the courage to be able to say that and trust that I have the ability that if I clear a path, then the universe will help me support that path. And it has done that. And it has done that. And I truly now trust myself. I trust myself and my ability to navigate through any difficulties, especially because I trust the universe to be there and whisper in my ear. And every one of us has that ability. Every one of us has has the support that they need. All they need to do is make a choice and trust that that support will be there. When you reflect back on your life, all of the adversities we went through in our life, we've overcome all of that. That's why we're all here today. all of the adversities that has happened, Spirit has held our hand throughout all that adversity. Why would Spirit let go of that hand now? It's not possible. It's in the design. It is our birthright, and that's how I left the corporation, is because I was scared initially, and I leapt because I actually heard a voice in my ear. Spirit said to me, "We will catch you." That's exactly what Spirit told me as I was waking up one morning, and it still took me, 6, 7, 8 months before I left. And Spirit has caught me. Every one of us can do this. So that's really my story about how I left.
So you are embodying one of your most famous phrases, you may not believe in the life you were meant to live. You are really embodying it. That's very, very, very important to share. And you started by being certified in earth math, sorry, the pronunciation is difficult in Italian. Can you share the science, because we start from science, can you share the science behind it?
Absolutely. One of the things that every human being was born with, one of the two things that we were born with, one is our ability to breathe deeply, and the other one is to feel emotions. No matter what we do, when we walk around, we are always feeling emotions. That is a given. That's our human biology. Even if you think that you're not feeling anything, you are feeling something. So when you feel emotions, as a baby, we take deep breaths. We actually, when babies cry, they cry from the diaphragm. Babies cry loud, and they're fine when they cry loud. I mean, you would think that somebody who makes that much sound would hurt their vocal cords or something, but they don't, because they are wide open and they can they breathe deeply, and that's one way that they can express their voices that way. One of the things that HeartMath has discovered is that when we are stressed out, we actually close our channels, we close our meridians, we close our energy channels. Now, they don't say it that way. I say it that way. What they say is that whenever you're stressed out, your heart and mind are not connected, which means that there's not enough, the information that flows from the heart to the mind is distorted. And so what they do is they say to us that there's a way to open up that particular heart-mind connection, and they can actually measure it. They measure it by how your heart variates, heart rate variability. So I can take you through, and everybody that's listening, I can take them through a process, a very simple process, to show them and demonstrate to them that they are stressed out, and how to bring it back to a normal state, which opens up all these channels, and which allows you to then think properly outside of fear, more like inspiration. So, I can take you through that practice, and then
Yes.
we talk a bit about what we're feeling. So the first
Yes,
thing,
so we understand the process. Yes, thank you.
okay. So the first thing we want to do is have everybody just kind of sit properly and just relax. The next thing we want to do is have people just place awareness in your area of your heart. So, when I was first starting out, I needed to put my hand here before in order for me to kind of know that I need to place my awareness here. And the reason that we need to put our awareness here is because we are always in our heads. We're always thinking about something, where I think what we need to do is allow our hearts to actually open up the flow into our brain, because there's more information that goes from our heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. And that's been known since the 1800s. So when it comes to HeartMath, they've discovered that what we need to do is place our awareness in the area of the heart, so that the heart then takes over and creates the flow that we need to remove all distortions from that heart-brain connection. The second thing we do is we take slow, deep, gentle breaths. So we count to about 5 seconds when we breathe in, and imagine these breaths flowing into our heart. So we just, and then 5 count exhale, as if it's flowing out of our hearts, like this. Now, when we do that, what we're doing is we're actually balancing the autonomic nervous system of our body. When we balance the autonomic nervous system of our body, that is controlling 90% of all the automatic functions. So digestion, heartbeat, enzyme production, hormone production, things that we don't think about, it's doing. 90% of it is automatic. So if we can just simply by taking these slow, deep, gentle breaths and just leaving our awareness in the area of the heart can affect 90% of our automatic functions, we can reverse the aging process because we're going to be producing more DHEA and we are going to be reducing the stress hormones. So what I'd like to do to begin this process now is to ask everybody to first check in where they are. So put your hand on your heart. Where are you right now in terms of your level of revving your body? Are you highly stressed? What does your body tell you? And then I want you to join me in this in a few breaths when we do this. So placing your awareness in the area of the heart. Now let's begin to take slow, deep, gentle breaths and just experience these breaths flowing in and out of our hearts. So let's just do that now. Now I want you to try it with your eyes open and continue the breathing process with your eyes open. Now check in with yourself. Ask yourself, did I feel my body slow down? Say a sentence out loud right now. Say a sentence out loud and see if the words that are coming out of your mouth are very clear and very slow, very gentle. If they are, that means you were stressed out before and you brought it down to a level which your body should be really reset to. Okay, that is your temperature check to see if you are revving high or down here. If you practice this technique every day, let's say 5 to 15 minutes, and you remind your body that my normal level should be here when we do these slow, deep, gentle breaths, when you remind your body of that, your body will actually then remind you when you're not that as you practice that. Now we can add one more level of amplification of that effect. And that is simply feeling the emotions. Remember, I said breathing and emotions are two things we were born with. So the first thing what we did right now was breathing. And the heart math folks call it heart focused breathing technique. Okay. But you can do this in any way you want. Just make sure you take slow, deep, gentle breaths. Then the next level of elevation of this technique is to actually create emotions in your body and feel emotions that are light, that make you feel lighter. For example, appreciation, gratitude, love for another. If you have a pet, you can imagine having a pet in your arms and feeling the joy. If you have a grandchild or a child, you can hold that child in your arms. Even if your child is 21 years old, like mine is. Mine is 21 and 20 years old right now. I still go back to the day they were born over 20 years ago, and I imagine holding my babies in my arm, just like this, and the love that gets in my heart. You can do that too. So now what we want to do is combine the breathing with the experience of love in our hearts. When we do that, if we do that just for 5 minutes, our immune system is boosted for about 6 hours. If we feel anxiety and sadness and depression for 5 minutes, our immune system drops by up to 6 hours. So in these days, when we've got the pandemic and all the things happening around us, 5 minutes of experiencing appreciation and care is enough to boost your immune system for 6 hours. So all you need to do is do four times 5 minutes, and you've got your 24 hours in a day immune boosting ability. And all because you were born with this ability. You don't have to take pills and things like that unless your doctor tells you to. But to boost your immune system, this is what's required for us to do that. And the more deeper and elevated your emotions are, like the more you feel in this light way, the more chemicals that are released that help reverse the aging process, help repair and rejuvenate diseases. It actually boosts your immune system to a point where diseases are beginning to start repairing them, going away, and cells are rejuvenating. So really, that is what the HeartMath basic research shows. And doing this simple practice for 5 to 15 minutes a day while experiencing positive emotions will actually boost your immune system and help you become more coherent. And what that does is when you are in a stressful situation and you are in survival mode, we talked about being in survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you are stressed out and you can't think straight. There's no path from your heart to your brain for intelligent thinking, for critical thinking. There's no path. You are always in survival mode. So even if you are struggling for food on table, even if you're struggling with people, and you think that things are going not well for you, you'll never break out of your current state. Even if that is what your current feeling is, practice this technique and draw your breaths into your heart, and experience positive emotions. Try and get there as much as you can. And once you do that, then you ask your heart this question: where should I go next? What should I do to make my life a lot better? And as soon as you do that, like it happened to me, Spirit will whisper in your ear, will give you a feeling of where to go next, and your life will change.
Yeah, so this is both to measure the level of the stress you have, because of course in this period we are all stressed, and both a way to achieve resilience, emotional resilience too.
That's
Yeah,
correct. Yes, it
so
actually, that's a
yeah,
good point. The more you practice this technique, the more you build the capacity of being resilient. So resilience is not something you were born with necessarily as a limit.
yeah.
Resilience is something that can grow over time. And the more you practice this and the more you engage life, whenever whether you're accosted with something that makes you go into survival mode, and you practice this technique, you're building resilience, you're building your capacity over and over again.
So do you think that we can use this technique also when we are triggered by the external? Or, as you were saying once, triggers have their own role.
Yes, so you brought up two concepts which I'd like to expand upon. The first one is triggers allow you to practice this technique.
Okay.
Okay, so that is really a gift. The universe whispering in your ear is basically you're saying, I want to break out of this survival mode. And the universe whispers in your ear or gives you an opportunity to practice this technique when you are being triggered. Okay. So when you're being triggered, the second concept I want to share with you is that when you're being triggered, sometimes because you're used to just reacting and I used to shut down. Like when I'm triggered, I shut down and I become aggressive. And I've recognized that. Some people become aggressive right away. They don't shut down and they fight, and they stay stressed out. So when you are triggered, um, the first time that you want to bring this technique into play and try and do the heart breathing technique, and that's why I asked, keep your eyes open during this, is because this technique is meant to be with eyes open. This technique is meant to be while these things are happening, you take the slow, deep, gentle breaths. You don't even, nobody knows that you're doing this. All you're doing is creating this feeling of joy in your heart or inner ease in your heart as the triggers are unfolding. So when the trigger happens and you begin and you stay back, you may even forget about doing this technique. You may remember it after the person's gone away and you say to yourself, I should have tried this technique. Okay. Don't worry. That happens to all of us. It happened to me. Like I went through when I first practiced this, I had a trigger event and I responded aggressively. I shut down. And then, hours later, I said, I should have tried this technique. And then I started trying that technique at that time, even though the event has passed. Okay. And eventually your body then becomes normalized to that. And now what my body does is, because every time I have this event and I forget to do this technique, I remind myself I should have done that. Eventually, what my body does now is it gives me the opportunity to say, okay, this is, you're triggered now, because I'm now, my body is saying this is not normal. Your normal is here because you've been practicing. And I get triggered. The body says it's not normal. Would you like to start practicing the technique? It gives me a choice. And sometimes I practice and I let it go. Sometimes I say, no, I want to engage in an aggressive way, which sometimes is appropriate to do.
Yeah.
So there's no judgment in how you
No.
respond.
Yeah.
What you have to do is you want to have that choice, a conscious choice that, yes, this is the time when I need to just step back and just uh, uh, create space for a child that's crying or hurt, right? A child that's crying or hurt, you want to hold back, have space and not panic to help them support. Science has shown, and there's a lot of material on this, that if somebody's stressed out, and if you experience joy and love in your heart, and you walk up to that person with compassion, they will feel that energy of compassion, because our heart has a magnetic field that goes out from 3 to 5 feet and it surrounds us in a bubble. And on that magnetic field are emotions. Your emotions are frequencies on that magnetic field that can actually be measured. And there's a literature of science by HeartMath, and they've actually measured spectral frequencies on the emotion, and they can tell if you are frustrated, those emotions are chaotic frequencies, and if you're feeling compassion or gratitude, they're very ordered. So imagine somebody standing beside you and you're feeling this compassion. All your frequencies on your magnetic field are ordered and very coherent. That person, even if that person's feeling anxiety, and if you're feeling more joyous than they are feeling anxiety, the frequency amplification will overwrite that. They will actually entrain to your particular emotion, and they will feel calmer. And that's why when children, when you hug them, you're showing them love, they calm down. Even with other adults, they feel better when they're even talking to you, even if you don't hug them. They're talking to you, they feel better, they feel lighter, because your magnetic field is coming right through and melting their anxiety.
So this technique can also help empaths. We are all empaths who work in a spiritual community. Generally, it's an empath. So by building this field, you can even help others and also do not take someone else's feelings.
You're exactly right. You know,
Sorry.
Valeria, I recently found out that I am a highly sensitive empath.
Yeah.
I had no idea I was. And the reason I didn't think I was an empath was because growing up, with my growing up, we talked about in a biography, you mentioned that I grew up with very low self-esteem and low self-worth. And basically, life circumstances were such that I created a big shield to protect myself. Now, I work with a lot of empaths, and empaths say, how do I protect myself? That's the first thing they say. I feel everybody's energies. I feel everybody's emotions. How do I protect myself? And then they create this kind of protection bubble. But what that protection bubble does, if you don't do it right, is you actually close your heart off. And then you're no longer really empathic. And you're closing off your gift as an empath. So I discovered a way to break through that and keep your heart open. One of the ways an empath can protect themselves from stray energies is to have an emotion of gratitude and appreciation that is a higher intensity of emotion than somebody feeling anxiety. And when you have that, that is the protection. Protection is not creating a shield around you to stop energy from coming in. It is actually creating your heart opening that allows you to beam that energy for others to draw upon and calm down. And that is the power of an empath. And it takes practice for us to be able to say, all right, what I want is I want to feel more gratitude. When you experience gratitude, sometimes you don't have that elevated level of gratitude because you only know a little gratitude. You only have a benchmark of this is how much I can feel. And all I did in order to feel a more intense version of that is I just talked to my body and I said, all right, I want to feel a more intense version of this gratitude. I want to feel emotions, and I tear up. I feel these emotions and I tear up. And that's what we need to do as empaths, is not shut down, is to say, I want to feel these the feelings of gratitude and appreciation and compassion. I want to feel it. I want to open my heart up. And when you do that, you're going to transform everyone around you and yourself.
Yeah, I felt practicing it that I realized that I was not really connected with my body. So not even maybe with some feelings, yes, but I was not really knowing my body. And so I think this technique and it's very useful. And of course, you have your method. You have your ignite from inside out method, and you provide a lot of help. I was really intrigued a few months ago when you were teaching how to ask for help, because it's something that we generally do not do because we are ashamed to do it. We feel weak. We do not show our vulnerability. So can you please share this? How do you help people in this?
Right. So if I understand you correctly, your question is, how do we ask for help from spirit? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, how do we ask for help without feeling small, without
Right.
feeling, yeah,
So most of us grew up with, going to churches or mosques or synagogues, and the way we are asked to pray is we beg God, we beg Spirit for for freedom or more money or alleviation of stress or sickness. And what we do is we go as beggars. I'm begging you, please do this. You are greater than I am. I am lowly. And if I'm good, I'll deserve your things. And then we go home thinking that if we didn't survive from a particular situation, we must have been guilty or we must have been bad or God is mad at us.
yeah,
That is not the case in our human design. That is not the case. We know that the same teachings that implies that also tell us God is unconditionally loving us. We are God's children. So if you were to believe, and if I were to believe, and I do, that we are children of God, imagine your child hurting. Would you not want to do everything you can to help that child? Would you say, no, you've been bad, so you can have cancer and you can die of cancer because you're a bad child? You would not do that to your own child. And God does not do that to us. So what God does do for us, or spirit or the universe, whatever your understanding of that great creative force, whether it's the field or the universe or God, we have the ability to choose our destiny. We make choices. We have free will. So nobody is going to interfere in our free choice. And so how do we ask for what we want is not is through emotions. So if I say to you, Valeria, I want $1 million, God, I want $1 million. If I say that, what I'm broadcasting emotionally is I don't have $1 million.
yeah, yeah,
And the universe is saying, okay, we'll match that emotion with not having $1 million. So you'll get experiences of what you're feeling, your broadcast of that feeling is. Now, this particular thing is actually alluded to in the Dead Sea Scrolls. There are hints of the feeling and the thought and the direction of that, and how we become connected with God in that way. So when we pray as co-creators. So we go to spirit, and in a very respectful way, as a partner that you would, as an equal partner, and say, all right, what should we create next? With a smile, saying, okay, what I want to create next is I want to have the ability to travel in the world. I want the ability to alleviate these symptoms that I'm feeling right now, chronic symptoms, so that I can actually go and walk for more than an hour. How are we going to create that? Bring me people, bring me technology, bring me ideas that will help me experience it in this way. How about that? Shall we do that? That is exactly how you communicate and co-create with spirit. And that is a respectful communication. You are it's almost like you and your romantic partner are working together in and creating something beautiful. That's how you want to communicate with spirit. Spirit is not above you or below you, and you are not below spirit. You are you are a creation of spirit. You know, if you are artists out there and you have a painting that you create, how do you feel about that painting? Do you feel that a painting is lower than you? It's not. The painting is you. You are a part of that painting. And I guarantee you that there will be moments where you won't feel like parting with the painting because it's your child. Some people, some artists, when they paint, they don't want to sell that. It's their child. That's how God is to us.
Yeah, this is important because we have these deep feelings of guilt, of shame. We blame ourselves. So I think that with this new energy in particular, that these are just feeling that we should not feel anymore because we are open and we can change our reality as you were saying, co-creating. Sorry, my cat is stretching, is scratching. Sorry. And something that I feel deeply inside is through your teaching, or is your teaching also helping people to evolve spiritually, to live as much as they can enlightenment.
Yes, and you know, one of the things that I do talk about, and everything that I do is about this. It's about stepping out of your own way. It's about having a different perspective of what you are meant to do in this life. And part of the things that we tend to do is, you know, I've known people who grew up and the dad says you have to be an engineer or you have to be a doctor. And that child did not want to be a doctor, but decided to go to university to be a doctor. And then the dad says, well, you have to find a company that is going to be a big company that you can retire at. And then that's what this person does. And we're always listening to somebody else's version of what a good life should be, because that person may not have had that life for themselves. They want to have that life for you. I know of a person who did that. He went to medical school, and 3 years later, 3 years of medical school, and he dropped out. He says, "What am I doing?" And he went and did something else. And he talked to me about it. And he says, I wasted 3 years of my life in medical school because my dad forced me to do that. There are many stories like that. We tend to listen to everybody else and take on whatever they think is the best life. And what I help people to do is to help them take off those layers and say, what are your unique talents? What are your unique talents? Where are you meant to go? Because I had to do that for myself. I had to, find what my unique talents are. And my unique talents have to help is to help people. Everybody here wants to help somebody. And that's really what we're about. But in what way do we help people? And the answer lies in what is your life path to this point? What have you picked up? And what are your experiences to this point? My experiences are, managing a Fortune 500 company, having a very strong theology basis and spiritual understanding because I read a lot of books. And so I can take these three and I can go to the corporate world and actually help them become more compassionate.
Yeah.
But my life journey has brought me to these particular sets of talents that I can apply. I also have a fourth one where I have gone through my low self-esteem, pain, and having a childhood that is separated from my parents. And I had to come back to loving myself and trusting myself from all of that adversity. And by doing that, I now can teach others how they can break out of that self-esteem shell and be able to shine their hearts, which is what they're meant to be. So my unique life journey has given me certain talents, which I need to own and I need to share. Everybody else needs to ask their question: what life am I leading right now? Am I leading somebody else's version of what life I should live? Or should I separate out those things and peel those off and find the real me, and then look at all my experiences to date, and then I can say, how can I shine from that perspective? And
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
do.
And this is what I feel too, that the more you progress in your personal path, the more you open to spirituality. So what we are doing today and what we are trying to achieve in our society is to merge the personal path and the spiritual path, or at least it's what I desire for humanity. Shamir, what do you think about the fact that we are starting remembering both our galactic origins and our Akashic records? What do you think? It's just because we are more open and ready for this new energy that is helping us, or is just an help we received also from Gaia? What is your point of view about this?
Well, the point of view is astronomical. First of all, conditions that are happening. We actually have a condition where we're getting bombarded with more gamma rays and other kind of space radiation as we move through the precession of the equinox, where
Yeah.
December 21st, 2012. So now we're on the return path of this 250 million year orbit around the center of the galaxy. So we're experiencing different energies coming through. Now, if you speak to the spiritualists, they will tell you that that is the actual cycle where we're beginning to thin the veil. So we are getting a lot more connected with the origin of where our soul is, our higher self, all the spirituality is there, and we're getting more connected. One of the things that you mentioned about Akash, the Akash um, really is a multidimensional concept. If you think about quantum physics, Akash is past lives lived. Now, many people believe, as a matter of fact, probably majority of the people in the world believe that that there's a life beyond where we are right now, and
Yes.
we have this reincarnation. We have a different perspective. We lived on other planets and experienced that, and when we came back here, we forgot about it and relived this thing. So one of the things about the Akash is that your DNA has multidimensional properties. We know that from science. We know that when you put when you put a piece of DNA in a vacuum and you shine photons through that, and then you remove that piece of DNA, there's the photons arrange themselves around a phantom area where the DNA was. So we know that the DNA has multidimensional properties. So what is in that multidimensional properties? What is in that 97% of the DNA that cannot be mapped? There's only 3% of the genes in the DNA that have ordered, that have a certain order that can be mapped. The rest is not ordered and used to be called junk DNA.
Yes.
But what's in that DNA is information that's multidimensional. And I truly believe that that information is our access to our other lives. Okay, I won't call it past lives, because in that space of no time and space, all lives, past, present, future, are all there. Even our future lives are there, and they're changing dynamically. That's a little mind bender, but when you step out of time and space, which is where our multidimensional reality is, everything collapses into state of everything, nothingness and everythingness into one point. So when we're talking about our Akash, what we're saying is that we're going into that space and finding the most perfect health and bringing it forward this way. That's our connection. That's our ask, and that goes back to the prayer. So if I wanted to find a way, because I'm not a good speaker, let's say, for example, let's say I was born not a very nervous speaker, but in a past life somewhere, or in a future life somewhere, that I'm becoming an amazing speaker, I'm a good orator, I can reach into and say, bring me that talent forward, because my DNA is connected to that. So if I send the intention, it will direct the energies to bring that forward. Of course, you have to have a way of sending that information, and that has to do with feelings, emotions, focus, and really falling in love with that idea. As a matter of fact, You know Lee Carroll, right? Of the
Yes.
Cryon. Yeah. So I do you know I speak at his events. Lee actually did that. Lee was a nervous speaker. He did not want to step on stage. And all he had to do was go to his life in Greece, where he was an orator. And he said, bring that forward. And now he's dynamic on stage. That's exactly what we have access to in our DNA. Is there's a life that we've led that is perfect in terms of health. There's a life that we led that we were spiritual, mystical, that we can draw upon. So what is it that you want to, what is a buffet of choices you want to have? And you just ask for that. And you can do that if you believe that you're not a victim of God's design, that you are a co-creator with God.
Yeah, I was, of course, everyone knows that you are part of the Crayons entourage. And for all the people who follow Crayon and Lee, of course, with the channel, they feel more connected with Lemuria. Some other groups feel more connected to Atlantis. So why right now we are having these remembrances? It's something that we need to bring back in this present moment, this Lemurian heritage.
It's true that when we have an awakening of sorts, we are all awakening. There's a lot of awakening. Those that are not that were not awakening before the pandemic hit are awakening now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, and when you awaken, you begin to remember. It's really, that's what it is. You're coming out of a coma. When you come out of a coma, you slowly begin to remember some things. And because you cannot, because your DNA is so open, your multidimensional properties and the connection is so open, you are now beginning to remember your lives that really seeded what brought you here, and you're remembering my purpose in life, what it is. And so a lot of people are opening up a lot more, and then some of them are not opening as fast. And the way to open yourself up to a lot more remembrance is really, again, practice, self, ask, make choices, set intentions. That's all we need. We don't need any magic pills. We just remember that. Now, Lemuria is interesting because according to legend, Lemuria was where everybody got their spiritual indoctrination, where they learned about spirituality and they learned about techniques, of how to navigate through life. And armed with that information, they lived a lifetime there, and then they moved to different places, and they were born in different places, and to carry on that particular information so that one day it'll be used as today. So people are waking up now. Excuse me. And so that is the part where people are remembering Lemuria. Some people may not have a connection with Lemuria. Perhaps they do, but they don't recall that, or they have a connection with a Lemuria that was in a different part of the world.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to, and you've heard Lee speak about this a lot, but when you go to places like Rapa Nui, Easter Island, Uluru, and if you go to Kauai in the ashram, in the Hindu ashram, all of them have a very similar story, that we are here from the stars. We are seeded by the stars. If you listen to Greg Braden, he talks about a Scientific American article which showed us that 200,000 years ago, we we showed up. Our current form showed up, and it showed up with evidence that there was a genetic splicing that happened that could not have happened other than a very, very specific advanced scientific approach. So we know that there's hints that we came from the stars. All of us did. And so now some of us are remembering the different aspects of that. Lemuria is one of those aspects.
Yeah, this is actually the first. I had a lot of past that are not really past life experiences, but for sure the one that I remember as the first one is the Lemurian. So I strongly feel Lemurian as heritage. And for this, I like this Cryon community, and of course you as well. So we can we have Gaia that is working with us. We have the star energy that we can anchor. We have our what we consider past that is present and we can access. So in this present moment, we have a lot of help. So as you were saying, if we choose to open to spirituality, we can easily do. Of course, it's not easy for everyone, but everyone can do it. I would like to talk a little bit about these frequencies that are coming, not really coming, that are amplified now about the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Because also in the Cryon community there is a big talking about divine feminine and divine masculine. Can you give me your male point of view as divine masculine energy?
Of course. One of the things that we are out of balance in the Western world, whether it's in Europe or North America, we're out of balance. We have a very heavy masculine energy, unbalanced masculine energy, toxic masculine energy, and that is from from generations where we lost our ability to self-balance. You know, we have examples. I mean, if you look at the advertisements that were happening in the 50s in the United States, I mean, they were misogynistic. I mean, they were anti-women. If you look at, I mean, recently Sean Connery transitioned. And if you look at some of his earlier works in James Bond movies, you will see that women were treated as not well. They were not treated as equal partners. So what's happening is that at that time, it was acceptable to have a toxic masculine ability, and women were suppressed, oppressed. And so now what we're trying to do here is all of a sudden these energies are opening up. And what's happening is it's giving everybody, men and women, the opportunity to self-balance. But what's happening is as men who are so accustomed to having that toxic masculinity, then they don't know that they have that toxic masculinity. They're just uncomfortable shifting from that place of I am a man and the woman has her place and she cleans and cooks. They're not ready to move there, although the energy is there to invite them to move in this direction. So they're struggling. And what's happening is that the energies are getting stronger and stronger. And it's almost like you're in an ocean and the wave is coming at you and you're resisting as much as you can until the wave gets too big for you. And then you either break or you move with the wave. And what's happening is that nothing can stop the balancing that's happening. That's going to happen. It's the individual choices whether they want to fight it and break or whether they want to just flow with it. And what's happening right now is a balancing of masculine and feminine. And we can start from our body. Our body is actually built to have a balance of masculine and feminine. We'd opened with a coherence building technique, the heart mat technique. What that does is as you take the slow, deep breaths, your heart rate goes up slowly. And as you exhale, your heart rate goes down slowly. Well, that's a masculine and feminine effect in your body. And if you have a good heart rate variability, you are resilient, you are a healthy person. And that's proven in science. So we know that in order for us to be healthy, we need to have this masculine, feminine balance happening in our body all the time. Whereas from a collective perspective, we're very masculine heavy. We go to war for any reason. We're not tempering that with feminine balance. So really what's happening right now in the world is there's this energy of balance coming in, and people who are not balanced are moving into balance. They can be forced into balance, or they can gently be guided into balance. And that's really what we're teaching with Dr. Amber Melia Wolf. You mentioned to me to mention the Lemurian sacred sexuality.
Yes, the sacred sexuality and the creativity related to that. Yeah.
Yes, and you know, one of the things that we've done and I was in Italy and I was doing a presentation to the sisterhood there, and one of the things that I noticed is that people didn't talk about sex. They're very blocked in that particular energy. that's the same energy that is a creative force. I mean, what's a greater creation than creating a baby through sex? I mean, that's a marvelous creation. And that's the creative forces that we're blocking by not having a healthy attitude towards sex. Men and women are unbalanced when it comes to sexual energy. And we need to expand and open up that particular energy in our bodies so that we can become whole from the top to the bottom. And that's the last thing that we need to open up, because everything else, and we know how to open up our hearts. We have the heart math. We know how to, meditate and open up our crown chakras. We know how to sing and tone to this, but the sexual energy part, we have not talked about in general. It's not a mainstream thing, and our energy meridians are blocked there. So what Dr. Amber Wolf Meliha and I are doing is to help men and women both come to that balanced state where they can unleash and direct that energy so that it can be more creative at work. They can be more creative in the pursuits. They can energize the life force, and of course have great sex. That could be also a part of that. So that is really what the balancing is all about, that we're bringing forth. And yeah.
Yes, and I think that is perfect that a woman will teach to women and a man to men, because in these past few years, it has been a lot of talking about the divine feminine coming back, but we know now that also the divine masculine, the real divine masculine, is coming back. So we can merge this nurturing energy with the action of the divine masculine to create new selves, and so new humanity, as I always hope. Shamir, you have some gifts for the audience. They will find a link to connect with. Can you share, please?
Sure. One last word, what you just said now. It's the women, the divine feminine, that's leading the way. In Lemuria, it was the women who actually set the spiritual stage, and then the men just followed. There's a comment that I remember that was made, that men knew how to fish in Lemuria. They knew how to fish, but it was the women who told them where to fish, because the women were spiritual. So the first awakening of the divine feminine has to come from the women, and they're doing it now with the work of Dr. Amber Melia Wolf and other women like her. They're opening up the pathway. They're setting the stage of spiritual enlightenment, and then the men are walking in to actually be in service of that initiative. And so that I want to leave you with that the women are doing some very important work out there, and I just so appreciate and honor the fact that they're stepping forward with so much courage.
Yes, but we also need the action. I'm glad also to have some divine masculine energy coming too, and the audience will find some of these tools in the free gift that Shamir is providing. Yes. So Shamir, it was really enlightening, mind-opening, and as I said before, I chose you as the first just because if everyone is able to achieve this coherence between heart and between the mind, life will be for sure easier, will be nicer, will be more joyful. So thank you for being my first speaker, my first guest. And I hope that we will see each other in person very soon.
I look forward to that day. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you, Shamir. So for the audience, I say bye, and we will see each other in the next interview. Bye.